quite literally, a celebration of pagan sexuality. From the Grateful Dead to their heir apparent Fish, with dozens of bands in between, Nietzsche's call for a Dionysian revolt through music is heard time and again. Consider, for example, the words of Ray Manzarek, keyboardist and co-founder of The Doors, as he described his teenage introduction to the dark mysteries of rock and roll while listening to the blues. It was incredible, the most dangerous singing and the most evil implications. The top of my head rose up, Kundalini uncoiled and sent shivers up my spine.
I'm gonna call into your window. I'm gonna coil up in your bed.
One chord, over and over, funky, dark, gritty, evil, trance state. My radio was hypnotizing me. This music opened the door to Dionysus, and he leapt in through my ears. And Manzarek understood that the transformation taking place in his teenage psyche was happening to an entire generation. It was wild and dark and dangerous, he said. Every white kid in America went absolutely crazy. The boys now had this thrusting, gyrating pelvic movement of Elvis Presley to try on the daughters of America. We went mad. A decade later, it was Manzarek's turn to open the throttle of the sexual revolution even further. The Doors began with a heady vision, a fantasy of making a music of sublime destructiveness, unleashing orgies of sexual licentiousness, subverting family life and its venerable traditions.
Father, yes, son, I want to kill you.
Exploring the most savage natural instincts in songs that celebrated that horrible mixture of sensuality and cruelty.
Mother,
Notions of Nietzsche that fascinated Ray Manzarek. And the Doors were far from alone in using music to help effect a revival of pagan sexuality. Courtney Love has admitted, "I want to be as perverse as I'd like to be, and therefore subversive, while making you hum along with it." In an interview with the homosexualist magazine The Advocate, Madonna also acknowledged that she is constantly trying to challenge the accepted ways of behaving sexually.
Hey Britney, you say you wanna lose control. Come over here, I got something to show ya.
When asked about the frequent and often extreme homosexual imagery in her music videos and live performances, and how teenage kids from Middle America are going to respond, Madonna replied, "They digest it on a lot of different levels. Some people will see it and be disgusted by it, but maybe they'll be unconsciously aroused by it. If people keep seeing it and seeing it and seeing it, eventually it's not going to be such a strange thing." It's little wonder that rock and roll and sexual purity comes off as a contradiction in terms. Whether consciously or subconsciously, there's a clear agenda here to, in the words of Huxley, legitimize people's sex lives. The problem is, though, that no matter how low a culture's standards sink, no matter if everyone is, as they say, doing it, God's standards remain firm and unmovable. Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals will inherit the kingdom of God. Number 2. Closely connected with this revival of paganism, the occult world often uses sex ritualistically to invoke spirits as well as into some way empower or transform the ritual's participants. Aleister Crowley was particularly noted for using sex magic, but a number of the secret societies that were part of the 19th century occult revival in Europe did as well. And around the world there are numerous primitive occult groups where spiritual possession and trance states are seen as acts of mystical sexual intercourse between the subject and his or her possessing spirit. In his own way, David Lee Roth, ex-lead singer for Van Halen, expressed much the same thing when he told Rolling Stone, "When I'm on stage, my basement facilities take over completely. It's like doing it with 20,000 of your closest friends." Roth was a bit more specific, spiritually speaking, about these basement facilities when he said, "I'm gonna abandon my spirit to them," which is actually what I attempt to do. You work yourself into that state, and you fall in supplication of the demon gods. No doubt Roth thought that he was just being dark and mysterious when he described his performance in these terms. But if we understand on the one hand the Bible's explicit teaching that there is a very real spiritual universe that operates beneath the surface of and often influences what we call our physical world, and then honestly compare the sexual energies in today's popular music with those found in self-consciously pagan or satanic societies, well, we would do well to reconsider the quote from the bluesman we looked at earlier. These men and women broke through the psychic straitjacket and delivered themselves up to the gods. The spirit of rhythm took hold of them, and they danced wildly, freely, lasciviously. Compare that with this observation by the Stones' Mick Jagger. "I get a strange feeling on stage. I don't feel the same person as I am normally. I entice the audience. What I'm doing is a sexual thing. I dance, and all dancing is a replacement for sex." Like Jagger, Led Zeppelin's Robert Plant, John Taylor of Duran Duran, Pat Benatar, Grace Slick, Blondie's Deborah Harry, Wendy O. Williams, Janet Jackson, to name just a few, have all talked about their performances as having a profound sexual component, essentially becoming the equivalent of having a form of sex with the audience.
I know that it's almost like a sexual exorcism for me when I'm on stage to have Flea and John and Chad playing behind me. I mean, it's exciting, and it's sexually exciting for me. You know, it fills my body with a certain frequency, you know, a certain vibration that just makes me feel sexually potent, and I just sort of let that come through me.
An interesting side note here. A common feature of the occult world is spirits that come and have sex with people at night. The male demon is an incubus, the female a succubus. Well, no surprise here. These demons frequently show up in album art, band names, videos, and song lyrics. When asked about the source for their name, the California band Incubus told Spin magazine that they intentionally looked for something radical and chose Incubus because it is a demonic creature with an enormous sex organ that has sex with women while they're sleeping, often killing them by piercing their womb. Does all this represent the intentional embrace of demons in satanic theology? In the majority of cases, no. But evil is rarely ever intentionally embraced. And this is precisely why Jesus cautioned some other spiritually naive people. You do not know what manner of spirit you are of. As we've seen before, people who hate or mistrust Christianity and openly embrace pagan alternatives are often not as naive. They know precisely what manner of spirit is operating behind the scenes. Again, from the bluesman. Many a boogie